What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? This is Damien,
I'm so soon.
and we are the framework where we bring reason and logic to the barbershop. Today, we have a special episode where we are going to be recapping the Big Daddy Kane and KRS Versus that happened on Sunday. If you caught it, let us know in the comments how you felt, who won. We're gonna do a round for round breakdown, and we're gonna give our individual uh takes on who we think got the round. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good. And if I can just chime in off of what you just said, I want to point out to the people that this is special because one of the key components to the framework, I don't know if folks realize this, especially those of y'all who been rocking with us since the jump, but we don't really demonstrate our individual thoughts on an entity that we are frameworking, that we are scoring, that we're rating, that we're reviewing. So this is actually the first time, like when we kind of veer off in random conversation, you might hear us talk about favorites and things like that. But this is the first time on a framework level, you are seeing us give you our personal takes. And the reason why we're doing this is because after the show, I'll say within 24 hours after the completion of this episode, you will get a short form version of our scorecard revealed from the framework's perspective. And what that basically means is that we are making our discussions, having our discussions, using the framework to make our final decision. So there's a scorecard that you will see tomorrow that will reflect the framework's scorecard. Tonight, you rocking with us, or you go back and watch this later, you are seeing Damien's scores and So Soon scores. And the final thing I say is we actually scored it pretty close, pretty much the same. There's only a few rounds where we have a slight difference of opinion. So,
Yeah, let's get
of course,
into
we
it.
want to
Don't
know
give
your
them too
opinion.
much. Don't give them everything now. Let's just get into it. Let's just start.
Then let's get into it. What you waiting
All
for now,
right.
fucking around?
So first, I guess first for like we could give individual summaries of the frame of the night. It was a legendary night. There was so many elements of hip hop that was on display. The freestyle, the DJs, the battling, the break dancers, the masters of ceremony just doing their thing, giving you so many different aspects of who they are as individuals as well as their musical careers. It was an amazing night. This might be, and we haven't done that list yet, but we might have to do top 10 verses so far. Um, right now, this is probably in the top five. If you ask me for my personal opinion, one highlight for me was seeing, all the different people came out, Roxanne Shante, Buckshot, DOS Effects, which I was shocked to see. Didn't even think about them when I was thinking about everybody else. Nice and smooth. The break dancers, Crazy Legs, and other people came out. It
Hot
was
Master
pretty cool.
Fable.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Pop Master Fable, a few. So it was definitely one of those great nights for hip hop in general, and the respect has to be paid to everybody who's helped create and build verses, and then all the people who are like, you know, keeping it going by supporting, by watching, by subscribing to the different formats and programs, and it's a great thing.
Right. Yeah, for me, I think that there were a lot of amazing moments in the night. I thought that it was fascinating that you have Big Daddy Kane from Brooklyn, and you have KRS-One, who, according to him, was born in Brooklyn but raised in the Bronx. So, and we know that he has historically represented the Bronx. It was fascinating to see that they were bringing out features from each other's boroughs. So KRS-One bringing out Buckshot. Big Daddy Kane bringing out Crazy Legs, representing the Rocksteady crew, and just different things like that happening. But yeah, definitely the features that they brought out. Hakeem Green from Channel Live, he came out, did his thing. A lot of really fun features. It was just a great moment for hip hop. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it top to bottom. So
Yeah, man. So, I guess is there a highlight for you that was like your favorite highlight of the bat, or just one highlight that you were like, oh, this was unexpected, or this just caught me. You know what I mean?
I don't. So I won't. There was nothing that was. I think, like I said, the features were the most unexpected moment because you never know who's gonna bring out who during these kind of events. I'd say that a moment that was fascinating for me, and y'all in the chat, y'all can chime in on this, but I felt like KRS-One was backing away from watching DJ Scratch ready to tear into Kid Capri on a scratching battle. He's like, nah,
Mm,
we came for these joints. This is verses. And that don't sound like the KRS-One that is known historically for just being ready to battle. And I guess maybe for him it was he wanted to focus on his own battle and not the battle of DJs. But Scratch on multiple moments was making it very clear that he was ready to tear into Kid Capri. So that was like really funny to me. Um, One thing that wasn't shocking, and then I asked you the same question, was we said this in the pre-show. Shouts to everybody who's in here tonight who was with us for the versus pre and post show or the post show. You might have been to both. You might have been to one or the other. If you have at least one of them, we appreciate you. And one of the things that we both agreed on from the very beginning was that this was going to be a very close match. And so yeah, I stand with that. How about you? What was the
okay.
highlight for you?
So, I think all the things you mentioned. I really enjoyed the freestyles. But one thing that shocked me, I think, quote me if I'm, don't quote me if I'm wrong, or correct me if I'm wrong. Um, I think KRS-One towards the end played a new song with the Knock 'em Out the Box, Chris, with Slick Rick, like
The quick sample. Yep.
sample. That song to me was dope. And if I'm wrong, if that was some from a album that I may not remember, or it was out at a time and I didn't catch it, let me know in the comments, because that song stuck in my head after the verses. I was like, yo, that beat was crazy. It was that was a highlight, because it was one of those you could end the show with that joint. You know what I mean?
Right. I can let you know without the comments that I have an inside source who has informed me that that's a new record from KRS-One. And in fact, it is alleged that KRS-One has a lot of new content coming very soon. So if it is holding up to that particular record, I am very excited to hear what KRS-One has for the people.
Yeah, that joint was dope. So, all right, we about 10 minutes in. We said that, the nice summaries and all the kind words. Now it's time to get into this versus battle. We're going to
Mm-hmm.
do the round for round breakdown, and we're going to give our takes, which we didn't agree on every round. We're not giving the frameworks score today. We are going to break down our personal decisions when we were scoring this and watching this. So,
Mm-hmm.
would you like to set it off? You can lead off on the first 10. Or do you want me to lead off
Surely.
on the first 10? Okay,
I
you
got
got
it.
it. You got it.
I got it. So round one, we had Criminal Minded versus Just Rhyming with Biz. I feel like KRS-One came out the gate ready. I mean, it was clear he came out the gate ready because when they announced Big Daddy Kane and he didn't immediately come to the stage, KRS-One was like, "Fuck it, we start." And then you saw Big Daddy Kane come out right when KRS-One was starting off. And then and then Big Daddy Kane, followed up with Just Rhyming with Biz as a homage to the recently ancestors, late great brother Biz Markie.
Mhm.
Um, I gave that round to KRS-One.
Yes.
How
Um,
about you?
I want to speak on the round a little bit.
Sure.
I think KRS tried to pull a fast one there, like basically Locks Dipset, because they wasn't ready. The Locks was like, whatever. And they just started. So it was like you kind of you take the steam from the intro, from the walkout, from the crowd. Like, so if you're like, you know what, I'm gonna start. So while you coming out, they already rocking with me. So I feel like that was a tactic. Either way, it was a very intelligent approach. If you're not ready to come out, I'm starting. You missed your opportunity to be introduced and like
Right.
warm up the crowd. So I thought he did something that was very intelligent. He is the teacher. I'm sure he's a master of ceremonies if you don't know. So he probably
Right.
knew, like, oh, if this, let's go, you know. I believe Big Daddy Kane came out paying respects, just like you mentioned. And dope song, just rhyming with Biz, but the round goes to Criminal Minded. Criminal Minded is a great way to start off. Um, and we had some conversation about how should they start this off. You know what I mean? What we were speculating in the pre-party, what should they start with? Um,
Hmm.
and that was dope.
Right. Indeed. Indeed. So I don't think that anybody, us nor any of the folks who are part of our pre-show, guessed either of those songs. But yeah, that was a good first round.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Um.
I think we may have mentioned it, but I don't know if it was like one of the possibilities, but I don't think it was a yeah, do this. I don't
Hmm.
think it was like I think he's gonna start with Criminal Mind. I think it was just one of those songs like he could start with that. And
Right.
but so let's go to the chat real quick. Shout out to Loretta's Only. Shout out to Sam Akala. Shout out to everybody else in the chat. Jeff White, what's going on? See the comments. Thank y'all for joining. Um, Great comment here. You'd like to hear more KRS-One records. Loretta's Only. Are you talking about the new records? Are you talking about you want to hear just some of his classics? Because it's all over the streaming site. You can check it out. You can purchase them, which is probably better for the artist. But that's a whole other conversation.
Right. Right. Good question.
Hmm.
That was round one. So,
Yeah.
but since we're in the chat real quickly, we had a question from Loretta's Only after the wanting to hear more KRS-One records, where he asked, "Who is the better artist, KRS-One or Big Daddy Kane?"
I mean, I guess we could get into that later.
Yeah, yeah,
Because to
yeah.
start off, yeah,
Table
yeah,
that,
we
table
gonna
that.
go through. We could table that question, but
Right,
that's a whole discussion in and of itself, depending on how
right.
you score it. If we got a framework for it, maybe.
Or this or
Um,
that.
right. So you ready for round two?
I'm ready for round two. So for round two, we had and just for folks who are watching live and in the chat, first song is always going to be KRS. Since he started off each round, second song is going to be Big Daddy Kane. So for round two, KRS-One came with "I'm Still Number One" versus "Enough Respect" remix by Big Daddy Kane. This was a really like I just felt like one of many rounds that was really tough to score. I think that Big Daddy Kane, excuse me, I'm sorry, that KRS-One kind of just by a little bit got this round.
Hmm.
But I gave this
Yeah,
one to KRS-One.
yeah, I went with KRS-One too. I think the original Enough Respect might have been a different track, to be honest. It might have had a different beat. Um, but I'm a big fan of Number One from KRS-One. I think that's one of his dopest songs, even though he has a great catalog. So yeah, right now we got KRS-One up 2-0. Both of us.
And
Interesting.
I'll quickly point out that still number one has been sampled so many times. The which I know the beat itself was also sampled from something else, but then that's been sampled several times. But also that I'm still number one has been
Hmm.
sampled a lot of times. So classic records. He said it while he was on stage at one point. Time records, and he was not lying. So going into round three, we had by KRS-One MCs Act Like They Don't Know
Hmm.
versus Young, Gifted, and Black. Another super, super close round. I gave this one to Big Daddy Kane, though.
This was
What
not
say
close for
you?
me. This round was not close for me. Young, Gifted, and Black was one of those songs. I said when that beat drop and he starts rapping that, I this is where I thought the separation would show on stage, where he starts giving you the flow and the bars and the lyrics that KRS-One is not necessarily able to give with that type of beat, that type of flow. Nah, this was a Kane. Kane came back and was like, okay, you started off strong, but now let's party.
Word. So we both gave this to Kane. We had a difference of opinion in how much the margin was, but we both scored this. So right now through three, we both have it scored 2-1 in favor of KRS-One. Moving right along into round four, we have KRS-One first medley. And if you don't know about Verzuz, a medley, we call it a medley. The framework calls it a medley when the entity performs more than one song or plays more than one song. And so KRS-One had two records in this round, being the MC, and then Out of Here versus Rap Summary, Lean on Me by Big Daddy Kane. Now, sorry, I didn't have it on the screen. So I want to say that I think that Rap Summary might have won this round if KRS-One didn't have the two songs paired up against each other. But these two records are both really strong records from KRS-One, and that is why I scored this round in favor of KRS-One.
Yeah, I would say I agree. We agreed on that one too. I think Rap Summary lost because it was 2v1, so it was like a gang up. So we gave it to the to KRS-One. He's up 3-1. Very good tactic. Yeah, let's go.
Going into round five, we have Jack of Spades by KRS-One slash BDP Boogie Down Productions versus Set It Off by Big
Mhm.
Daddy Kane. I gave that one to Big Daddy Kane. What say you?
This round was closer for me because Jack of Spades is a dope song, but Set It Off gets it easily. Well, yeah, Kane gets this round. So
Okay.
Kane is fighting back 3-2. Kane is getting into some of his joints too, and like even in the verses, we started to see like Kane is getting comfortable, and it looked like KRS was getting a little winded. He was hot. He was like jumping around a lot in the beginning. He started to slow down. So I was already in like, oh wait, what's going on? Is Kane about to start getting at him? You know what I mean? Like so.
I want to ask you something about that. We talked about that behind the scenes, but I'm going to hold that until we go through the rounds and then assess, what the audience is thinking and all that good stuff. I'll try to remember my
Definitely.
question. Going on to round six, we had KRS-One with My Philosophy slash again BDP, and then obviously he did a lot of Boogie Down Production records. His crew.
Hmm.
I didn't label everything that he did with Boogie Down Productions, but several of them are reflecting that. Versus Mortal Kombat by Big Daddy Kane. So for this round, I gave this one to Big Daddy Kane. What say you?
So my philosophy is one of my favorite KRS songs, and I gave it to Mortal Kombat, and I didn't. I was like struggling with it, but Mortal Kombat is just a dope joint. Like song versus song, I gave it to
Mm,
Kane. Also, I felt like on stage, I was a little bit disappointed in how KRS delivered my philosophy. So this is where I started to feel like he was getting a little winded. But what do I know? I could be completely wrong. But I feel like that's one of those songs that when he comes out and does my philosophy, I'm sitting there like banging my head because it's just such a dope record. And I didn't feel like it was performed the way I was like, that was one of the songs I was looking forward to, you know?
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Cool. So through 6 rounds, they're at an even 3-3 on both of our scorecards. So now we go into round seven, where KRS-One does another medley with Super Ho and Jimmy versus I Get the Job Done by Big Daddy Kane. Now he only played a small, excuse me, DJ Kid Capri only played a small snippet of Superho before going into Jimmy and KRS-One performing a chunk of that. So, but still a medley round nonetheless, I guess, because the songs have a similar theme.
Hmm.
So for round seven, I scored that one KRS-One by the slightest of margins. How about you?
Yeah, to me that was another close round because I Get the Job Done is such a classic Kane record. It's such a high energy. Superho is a decent song. I wouldn't put it on one of his dope lists, but Jimmy is, one of those classic joints everyone knows. And then I had to think about like the song versus song, and I gave it to Kane for I Get the Job Done. I think Jimmy has a great message. I think it's important to think about during the time and when it was made. But we're going song for song. I Get the Job Done just is a fire joint. And I gave it to Kane. So right
So
now I
now,
got Kane winning the last three rounds in a row. So it looks like Kane is on a run. Um
mhm.
but yeah,
So your scorecard at this point through seven rounds has Kane at four and excuse me, KRS-One at three, and mine's is reverse 4-3 in favor of KRS-One.
yeah.
Um,
4-3-3-4.
go correct. Going into round eight, we have part-time suckers versus pimpin' ain't easy. And for those who didn't see verses, I feel that it's important that I should point out that Nice and Smooth were brought out for Pimpin' Ain't Easy, which was the first of the many features that came out for either artist. And then Nice and Smooth performed Dwick, one of my favorite hip hop records of all time, period. Do What You Can, Kid. Shout out to Primo, shout out to Guru, rest in peace. Obviously, Dwick does not count as the round. That all said, I gave round eight to Pimpin' Ain't Easy by Big Daddy Kane. What say you?
Yeah, Pimpin' Ain't Easy, one of my favorite Big Daddy Kane songs. I remember learning the words as a kid. Certain songs, as young people growing up, we gravitate because of the language, or they say some wild stuff, and you're like, ooh, and the taboo becomes interesting. Like you become you wanna, so that was one of my favorite joints. I gave it to Pimp It Ain't Easy. And Nice and Smooth coming out was super dope. You saw Nice doing the dance, that it was going,
Right,
and I was like, okay, I see
busting that
him.
WAP.
Yeah,
Busting
that
that
joint was
WAP.
dope.
WAP. That is a
Yeah, we
dance
can't
for
even call
you.
it that
You
anymore because now the word has been reappropriated for
we
something
know what
else.
it is. We if you know, you know, like the youth them say. shouts to shouts to Smooth B coming out with a cape that he couldn't take off. That was hilarious.
Very
BDK was like,
much
I got
so.
you, brother. I got you. Anyway, going on into round number nine, we have Black Hop. And I love how Kid Capri kind of blended. I say both he and KRS-One blended because KRS-One's got some of that patois happening in Black Cop, and then he brings out Mad Lion, who does Take It Easy. That was
Hmm.
super fun. Mad Lion is just as wild as I imagine he probably was when I was younger listening to him. And that went up against Raw. I gave round nine a draw. I just thought that these two songs are both timeless classics from these artists, and I couldn't score it in favor of either one. So this was a draw round for me.
I hear you. I gave the round to Big Daddy Kane. I love the messaging in Black Cop, and Mad Lion coming out got me hyped. He did Take It Easy. I'm like, oh, and then when I heard Raw, I was like, ooh, that's a good comeback in that moment. And I gave the round to Kane for Raw. I just think I'm trying to keep like song wise. I like Black Cop, but if I'm being honest, you say when you hear the hook after a while, it kind of drags on, and I'm like, all right, yeah, that's dope. It is a amazing message, amazing lyrics. But if you say song for song, I'm going with Raw. Um, Last round for you, sir. Round 10, and then we'll switch it up.
So, and just to recap scorecards, my scorecard is at shoot, what is my scorecard at? I lost track.
I'm at
Four,
6-3. You at
I'm at
four
one,
four
two,
one.
three, four. Thank you. Yes. Thank you. I appreciate that. And going into round 10, so we debated this, not debated, but we discussed this behind the scenes. And ultimately, Damien had a great point. I personally was not sure whether to count round 10 as a round because they both freestyled. And Damien very quickly, very brilliantly pointed out that freestyles have been used in verses. Jada Kiss, I think, might have been the first in his freestyle during the Locks Dipset battle. But this was the first time in versus history where freestyles went up against each other, and I think that's what threw me off. Ultimately, we agreed that does count as a round, and
Mm-hmm.
so Big Daddy Kane had his freestyle, KRS-One had his freestyle. Kane brought much better bars. I gave it to Kane.
Mhm. This round went to Kane. It was dope, both freestyle, so you can't take anything away from KRS. But yeah, that one went to Kane. So for me, I actually have it 7-3 Kane, but I didn't feel like it was a landslide or a blowout. I just felt like Kane started edging more rounds. And for me, I was like, so it looks like Kane is running away with it, but I don't feel like that way. I feel like it's actually much closer than it is. So, um, but I was trying to pick, you know what I mean? I was like, let me pick a winner of this round. And I was
Mm-hmm.
picking. So, through 10 rounds, we got my scorecard is 7-3 for Kane, and his is 5-4-1 in favor of Kane. So Kane
Mm-hmm.
right now is in the lead slightly, or in a bigger lead in my card. And we get
Well, he's
to
winning the fight either way.
yeah, he's winning either way right now. Um Freestyle. All right, so round 11, we got the freestyle represent the real. Um and they want effects, right?
Mm-hmm.
Das Effects came out, and then we had a freestyle from Kane, and he did Smooth Operator. So in that round, Das Effects came out. It was like shocking, and then they performed, and it was like dope. And then one of them kept it going. Um,
I think it was Drez.
sorry, yeah, you hear background noise?
No, I did earlier, but not anymore.
Okay, sorry, I heard some background noise, and I can hear it clearly now.
Got you. But
Yeah,
yeah, no, I
yeah,
don't hear it
but
on your end. I heard
okay.
there was some on my end earlier, but I was able to kind
Mm.
of like
Just making sure
ignore
if
it.
I needed to like.
No, I got you. But
Can you
yeah,
keep going?
so
Keep going.
yeah, I got it. So it was Drez. I'm pretty sure. If you watched and you're tuning in right now, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was Drez from Das Effects who kept freestyling while walking off the stage, and you can see
Mm-hmm.
Big Daddy Kane kind of like, all right, I see you. And then when they finally did leave stage, he's going to KRS-One like, yo, that's your man. He's starting. So there was that competitive energy. I feel like if you have a legend, a generational legend. So first of all, let me be clear about something. We had two generational legends competing against each other. And if this legend is bringing you out, and let's bear in mind that with the exception of the break dancers, everybody that they brought out was younger than them. They were from a younger generation than them, is what I'm trying to convey. And so you have your mentor, legend, somebody who you probably look up to, bringing you out on this kind of platform, and folks was making full use of it. We'll just say that, and so that's what I saw in that. And you also saw some of that competitive spirit coming out, which I really enjoyed. Who
Yeah,
did you
yeah.
have for this round?
So I gave it to Kane. Smooth Operator is one of the great hip hop song. Dope, performed by Kane. I think he came out and was like, "Oh, this is my moment." You know what I mean? Like I can get him right here because It was a wild one. Sorry, I have some background noise. I'm just trying to clear out. But then the next, what's the next? What you gave it to who?
I gave that round to Kane as well. I thought that was a great round, but ultimately that one went to Kane.
Thank you, sir. All right, so I'm back. I'm back. I'm sorry. Distraction's over. Then KRS comes back with "Step Into the World," and it was like, oh, this is what we've been waiting for. When we predicted that he might start with this song, come out and
Yep.
just kind of take control, you know what I mean? To be like, look, this is what it is. Like you can't drop these type of beats that just shift the whole mood of the and the message step into the world. So anyway, step into the world comes on and we like, oh, going crazy. Then next is Wrath of Kane, which is another. This is the like Titans type round. But Step Into the World is just one of the greatest hip hop tracks of all time. Wrath of Kane
Hmm.
is one of the dopest joints Kane has ever put out. Step Into the World is one of the dopest hip hop joints ever. I gave that
Right.
round to KRS-One clearly. This was
Yeah.
one of those songs that I said when KRS plays this, if I'm trying to beat him out song for song, I put one of my weaker songs against it and just let him cake that. But then the next round I gotta come back with a banger to kind of get rid of that feel that he's gonna generate as soon as that song drop.
Right, right. Yeah, I love Step Into the World. I remember the song coming out because I remember being younger, not having been fully exposed to KRS-One yet at that time in my life, knowing some of the music. I knew Black Cop, I knew Take It Easy, I knew several of the records younger, but I didn't understand KRS's relevance to hip hop because I just didn't have those people around me to give me that context. I had to learn that for myself as an adult. But I do remember Step Into the World because there was this kind of like, you knew at that point he was already a legend in the game, and he had a little bit of time off. He came back with that and really set the world ablaze. He really reminded folks what the culture was about with that record. So yeah, that was a good record, and I also gave him that round.
Yeah, man, it was great. So round 13, we get to KRS going into one of his another classic hip hop records, South Bronx, paying homage to where it all began, telling the story and shouting out many hip hop legends. Um, up against Ain't No Half Steppin', which is another one of Kane's biggest records, and DJ Scratch scratching. And we're not counting Scratch going crazy into the song versus song, but if we were scoring performance, ooh, Scratch, you cheating if you get Scratch to be a DJ, right? It's like they said it in the show. If you saw the verses, you hear what they said about Scratch. Um, Trying to keep us from getting too many flags for cursing and stuff like that. But so that round, I gave it to Kane. I said, "Ain't No Half Stepping" is another one of his biggest records. South Bronx is dope.
Hmm.
It's like a preference round. A lot of this is more preference match because there is no like there's very few clear winners of any round. But I went with Ain't No Half Stepping. I think South Bronx is dope, but Ain't No Half Stepping is a bigger, more expansive hip hop song. Even the phrase Ain't No Half Stepping is just a thing. It's a hip hop quotable. Um, and South Bronx is dope and it's paying homage and it's giving the messages again. But Ain't No Half Stepping goes a little bit above and beyond in my book.
Hmm. Yeah, I gave this round to KRS-One and by the slightest of margins. And I really, in my first score, my first watch, I had a lot more rounds scored as draws, but I really tried my hardest to like stand on one side. You know what I'm saying? Um,
Mm.
Ultimately, I gave this one to South Bronx because of its impact on hip hop culture. Like when hip hop reaches its 100th birthday, in 2073. That'll be the year that it'll reach its 100th birthday. South Bronx will still be like a quick kind of like sidetrack, but to make the point, right? NBA just started their 75th season yesterday, and they are expanding a list that they created well over a decade ago for the best 50 players of all time to now be the best 75 players. And I don't remember all the criteria. I was kind of trying to listen last night, but I don't remember the criteria. But the point is that if you were to have a conversation about like the top 100 songs in hip hop, even like I said in 2073, you can't have that discussion without talking about South Bronx because the impact of it was just so heavy. So by the slightest of margins, I gave this round to KRS-One, and just really quickly, given my scorecard, I have it at 661. So it is split right down the middle through 13 for me.
Mhm.
Damien, you have it at 9-4 in favor of Big Daddy Kane.
You, next round, KRS starts with poetry and Love's Gonna Get You versus a freestyle by Big Daddy Kane. That was dope, but it goes to KRS-One. Poetry, Love's Gonna
Now
Get You. It's hard to
you
what?
just said round 15, bro.
Yeah.
We
Oh,
on
I apologize.
14.
Round 14. Sound of the Police versus Platinum Plus featuring Big L. Big L, rest in peace. Sound of the Police, that is another one of those songs that was gonna clearly get a win. Or it would have been a Titan match again, but it was gonna edge out almost anything Kane decided to play. Sound of the Police gets that round for me. So now KRS-One, yeah, KRS-One gets that round.
Right. So you got him at you got 9-5 in favor of KRS-One. I also
Mhm.
gave that round to KRS-One, which brings my card to 7-6-1 in favor of KRS-One. So
Nice.
now you can talk about round 15.
Now,
Go
round
ahead. You spoke
15,
about it, but speak
poetry,
on it.
Love's Gonna Get You, then the freestyle by Kane. KRS gets this. We spoke about it already. Now Kane is going on a little bit. I mean, KRS is going on a little bit of a run. So of the last four rounds, I gave three of them to KRS. So he's climbing back where I have it 9-6.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I also gave that round to KRS-One. And so for my scorecard, I have him at 8-6. Well, I have it at 8-6-1 in favor of KRS-One.
Right. Next round, round 16, there's a freestyle from the Master Blaster KRS-One, and then Kane goes with a song, another victory,
Mm-hmm.
which it's hard to beat a song with a freestyle, especially a freestyle on the spot or a freestyle that isn't basically like one of the most classic freestyles that everybody knows. It would have to have the type of impact and buzz and quality of a song. So that round goes to Kane for me.
I agree for all the reasons you just said. There's nothing much else to chime in on with that point. Yeah, that round definitely went to Kane as well.
Wanted to speak on it. There's a lot of freestyling going on in this battle, and I appreciate it. So
Right,
that's dope to me. I think
right,
when you bring in that element of impromptu or newness or whatever for verses, I think that's a great part of the show. And when you think about the elements of hip hop, getting on stage and hearing somebody rap for the first time is one of the most exciting things, especially when they're going off. So I really felt like this they brought so many elements. You know, they had the break dances and other stuff already during which I would call like an interlude. They had these people come out. They did so many different things. It was like if they're gonna put on more verses after this, they might have to, just like the Dipset and the Locks. People started to build off of what they did, just like the reggae verses. People started to build off it, just like the Jill Scott and Erica Badu. Like certain verses, people, oh, we see what they did there. Now we're gonna keep bring that into our show. And I think that there's a lot of things that happen in this verses that people are gonna bring. I think every verses now, you probably gonna see, if they're rappers, you're probably gonna see them freestyle.
right, right. And I would say quickly to that unless I won't say unless because there's a few
You say
exceptions.
whack?
Jada Kiss, no, Jada Kiss being an example. If you're not spitting at that level, then and you're trying to do like a freestyle or what I like to call random bars, a random verse that you might have had prepared for that night. Because I think KRS-One did do some off the top of the head in real time actual freestyling last night. I think he also had some verses that he just had, in the cut. But if you're gonna do that, unless you're prepared to throw around, which I personally would never be prepared to throw around, um, make sure you do it as a medley with a song that the people are familiar with. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, that's some good advice. We're gonna go back to the comments for a section. We got Gons. He said if you don't say hi, I'm leaving. So if he's still here, what up, Gons? He's a friend of the show. Very, very fun, entertaining guy, but he's a dope lyricist, so check him out. Who else do we
right
have in
ab-
the chat?
right above that comment before you highlight something. All right, you highlighted something. Yeah, that's what I wanted to highlight. That was right above where you said it. Maybe he just wanted to hear his name being shouted out loud. So, good evening,
Mm,
the real F Gons from New Jersey. Hello, sir.
he on that Jersey shit. Gons also mentioned that he has a request. I want to see what the request is. I'm going through the chat now, but we also had pick a BC date because your history. I think that was what was the diss song, Donald? It was
South Bronx.
South Bronx. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm,
It was definitely dope. Um all right, so we're moving on to round 17,
17.
right? So
Yep,
if you get a chance,
it's
throw it in
there.
the chat. No,
It's
I was
there.
talking to Gons. My bad. So Gons, if you get a chance, throw it
Oh,
in the chat. So round 17 is The Bridge is Over, where Red Alert came out, which is dope. He's doing the background. They going back and forth slightly. I was like, that's really cool. I wish that they had a mic prepared for him so you could hear him clearly, because I think that would have
mm-hmm.
been even better. Because Red Alert has such a classic voice. Um, versus the Symphony with Master Ace, Craig G, Roxanne Shante came out. I think this you could look at this many different ways. You know what? Let's say who won, and then I'm gonna talk about this round. KRS-One gets the round, song for song. The Bridge is
Mm-hmm.
over, but the Symphony is also a titan of a song. If the Symphony goes up against almost anything else, we have a different discussion. Because I think the Symphony beats almost everything else but the Bridge is over and maybe Sound of the Police,
Hmm.
maybe Criminal Minded. I think the song came out, it's song placement. But yeah, anyway, go ahead.
So yeah, I gave this round to KRS-One. Again, it's another record. First of all, I think both of these records would find their way in the top hip hop songs of all time.
Mm,
For anybody who's doing those kind of lists. And I think Donald he chimed in on this earlier relating to South Bronx, and I think it's more the same with the bridges over. It was definitely impactful because it was a diss record, a battle record, and I got to be unbiased despite being from the borough that he was talking heavily about, or the artist from the borough that he was heavily talking about being Queens and talking about Queensbridge. That said, it is like one of those timeless classics. Like when that drum comes in the beginning, you know what it is. If you know what it is, then you know what it is. So, by the slightest of margins, I gave this one to The Bridges Over, KRS-One, Red Alert. You wanted to chime in on something? Please go ahead, sir.
So the Bridge is Over is dope. This record, it's some wild shots being said, because he's dissing the Juice Crew. So he says some things about Roxanne. You know what I'm saying? Like y'all know the record.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't, just go listen to it. And then when he brings out Roxanne Shante and she speaks, and then he talks about how she put everybody on.
Mm-hmm.
That moment to me also nullified some of the things said in The Bridge is Over. Now, if you see me talk about song for song, The Bridge is Over wins. But on stage, I'm looking at it and I'm like, sound quality isn't there. Oh man, because this is a moment. You could turn off all the lights and play this song and just everybody shut up, let him rap the words, and that's the biggest moment in versus history, no doubt, in my opinion. Um, so I'm looking at it, and then I see Master Ace and Craig G come out, and they're spitting, they're hitting every word, they sound clear. I'm like, the show is on one side, the classic songs and records on both sides, but it seems like KRS is winning the song placement right now.
Mhm. Mhm.
But it
Yeah.
was that was another great moment in the verses.
And again, as a recap, for those who've not previously watched any of our versus framework content, one thing that we always talk about is that we are scoring the songs, we're not scoring the performance, as performance is now being implemented with the world reopening. But one thing we had a lot of thoughts about, Damien and I, while watching the verses days ago, was the fact that it was really challenging to hear KRS-One word for word. I feel like he has such an amazing cadence. Like that's one of his tools that he's known for historically as an artist. I'm sure anybody who's seen him perform live can attest to that as well. And I felt like it was used to his detriment as far as the performance of it. It was a lot of high energy, but it made it really difficult to hear what he was saying. So, on the flip side, to your point, Damien, yes, everything that Big Daddy Kane was saying throughout the entire night and all his songs you could hear. So that was something that was on our minds. But yeah,
Yeah.
that round goes
Uh,
to KRS-One,
mhm.
and
So the
then
last round, the last official round of the battle, because right after this, KRS does a performance, but no, like there is nothing else that comes on Kane's side. And I think they kind of gave a little bit of their time to the DJs, to the breakdancers, to the conversations, to the bringing people out, letting other people rap and do their songs. So that was really dope of them. So
mhm,
this is going about 18 rounds. The last joint is hip hop versus rap, and Buckshot comes out and does How Many MCs Must Get This, which is another one of my favorite hip hop joints. I've told the story a couple times about like the first tape I ever bought as a kid with my own money was Black Moon. And it went up against Warm It Up Kane, another one of Kane's biggest records, which DJ Scratching again is hard to, I gave the round to Kane. That one is a decent one, but you can't count How Many MCs Must Get Dissed for KRS because that's a Buckshot
right,
song.
right. So
And I got a
yeah,
question for you after this.
I gave
Gag.
that round to Kane as well. Nothing much to add other than I think I mentioned this in the post show. I don't mind saying it again here. Growing up, I was a huge uh, Duck Down fan, and so that's pretty much all the artists who are part of that entity, be it Black Moon, Buckshot and his solo stuff, BCC, OGC, the list goes on and on. And so seeing Buckshot come out was really exciting, and he clearly was excited, and he was also in a bind because he's been being brought out by KRS-One legend who's from the Bronx, and he's going up to Big Daddy Kane towards the end of a freestyle after he did How Many MCs, like "You're my brother, I love you," whatever. So that was a cool moment. So, but yeah, that round went to
Definitely.
Kane. Before you ask your question, I just want to recap final scorecards. I'll say my own. Let you say yours. My final scorecard um, didn't disappoint. It was 9-8 with one draw in favor of KRS-One. How about yours?
Mine was 11-7 in favor of Big Daddy Kane. I think it was closer than it looked on my scorecard. I'll say that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the question was, if let's say we're just doing song for song, what would you do if How Many MCs Must Get This goes up against Warm It Up Kane by itself? Where would you give the point? Song for song.
Kane.
Wow. I don't know if I could
I
do that.
prefer
But
How Many MCs Must Get This. I prefer that record, but like, what's a better record? In terms of the way the framework breaks it down, it definitely would be Warm It Up King.
really, because I would go the other way. I would probably give it to How Many MCs Must Get This. But that's not what we're here for. It was a good question. I just wanted to hear your thoughts. So we got about so let me close out. There was the Nam MM Goes Bang, the R Yeah, the Mad Ism, they with Channel Live, they all went and did their thing. I mean, KRS did his thing to end off the show, and then it like end. I guess like they have a set time where they're not trying to let things carry on after a certain amount of time. Maybe they have the venue rented for a certain time, and they're like, we gotta get everybody out by this. But it kind of ended abruptly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but basically the whole verses was a moment, and I'm happy to have been able to sit down and watch and observe this and enjoy what was on display and what was happening in that show. And I'm so glad that we got to see these two legends on the stage at the same time. They're so different that you have to be able to appreciate both. That's why the scorecard at the end of the day is it to me it's closer than my preference went.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it and your card was 981, which is basically like a toss up because it's like a style clash, which is very interesting. But they both showed love, they performed, they showed out, they brought energy, they were entertaining, they were funny. You got so much of that from these legends, and I think this is what you want to study when you think about MCing um, and rocking a crowd because I think they rock the crowd.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This was an amazing versus. My only wish is that uh, it had a larger attendance. I think it was you who said to me, it was either you or Sam who had pointed out that at this point, Versus has expanded to so many different platforms. So that could be the reason why the Instagram live numbers were lower than like previous verses. It's on Triller now. I'm sure there's people who have converted to Triller to see a larger screen kind of situation. I don't know what Triller looks like, so that's pure speculation. It's on Apple TV. I think it's still on Apple TV last I checked. And so on and so forth. So that could have impacted the numbers. Who knows what the collective numbers were?
Yeah, we don't
But
know.
that being said, I'm thankful that I watched it. This is a versus that I feel like, I mean, hindsight is 2020, but I feel like had I not watched it in real time and heard all my people saying, yo, you missed it, you bugging, I can't believe you missed it, that I would have regretted. There's several that I haven't seen and I don't necessarily regret. This is one that I'm happy I saw in real time and versus having to like go back and watch it. And so great moment for hip hop. Versus continues to like use its platform for the greater good of black music. And
Hmm.
I'm happy to be living in this time in my life where I can see these things happen. So kudos to them, as you've already said earlier. And of course, kudos to these two legends, Big Daddy Kane and KRS-One, as well as all the other amazing artists that they brought out throughout the evening.
So now that we got the fun, friendly, technical aspect of the show, we got about 5 minutes. Let's have some fun. Um, Rapid fire or whatever. Let's look in the comments. Who do y'all want to see in a verses soon, next, before the end of the year? Who would be your favorite verses? And while they're typing it up, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. What would be your favorite? What would be the verses that you would be like? I want to throw a versus party. I want to invite people over. We gonna all sit around and have this joint on the TV blasting. We gonna have drinks, food. You know what I'm saying? What would be that versus for you?
Well, I already said this in I believe, the post show on Sunday, but I'll say this again only because I didn't think of this, but when I heard it, I was like, yeah, let it happen. I want to see Busta Rhymes versus Eminem.
So that would be your ultimate versus. That would be the one that you're like, I want to see this the most, more than any other potential verses. And I'm thinking of rap, hip hop, not like if you wanted to hear like Whitney Houston and like Aretha Franklin. That's different.
Yeah, I want to see Busta Rhymes versus Missy, but Missy doesn't have that competitive spirit. That's why it hasn't happened. I'm almost certain it would happen, but Missy is known to be an introvert, and that's the word as far as why that hasn't happened. So so Busta Rhymes, like, to this day, still one of my favorite all time artists, and it's clear that there are active discussions about having a versus for him. It'll break numbers, I'm sure, and as the hype continues to build, I think it's only creating more of a, whenever it does happen, whoever it is against, it's going to create making for an interesting thing. So I would like to see Busta Rhymes against Eminem because that's what I've heard. Somebody mentioned something interesting on the socials yesterday that I saw that I still think would go in the favor of Busta Rhymes, but could be interesting. Busta Rhymes versus Common. I think Common has that competitive spirit. I know he has 20 songs. I don't know that he could beat Busta Rhymes in the verses, but those are two that come to mind. I'm not good off the cuff with these kind of things. Jay Z and Nas would be obvious. It's not going to happen, but that would be an obvious one. But those are some of the few that pop to my mind immediately. Kim versus Foxy. Artists that were like paired up against each other, pitted against each other throughout their careers. I'd love to see some of those verses actually happen. Monica and
It's
Brandy
nice.
happen. Why can't these happen? Am I being too
Yeah, I don't think
greedy? But
Monica
good
wanted
stuff.
to. I don't think Monica wanted to do that versus. But anyway, we don't want to deal with too much speculation. But shout out to Tyson Roberts.
This is a
He's
speculatory
been in the
question.
comments. No, I got you. But the like you're answering the question, but taking information from something else to add to it is the speculation I was referring to, and not you, but just generally. I'm
Got
speaking
you.
about
Got you.
myself.
I
But
got you.
so shout out to Tyson Roberts. He mentioned the Eminem versus Busta Rhymes. I think a few people are pushing for that now. I know Busta wants to do a versus because they keep saying find an opponent for Busta Rhymes. He doesn't care who the opponent is, and I'm sure there are many people who are like, I could beat him, but I don't want to versus him on stage. Like if it was like, well, let me play my song, you just play yours. He also mentioned Common versus Nas and Jay Z versus LL. I think Jay Z versus LL would be a very bad night for LL because I don't know what song LL has that is an automatic point. I don't think Mama Said Knock You Out is an automatic point. I don't think 5 4 3 2 1 is an automatic point. I think Jay Z's catalog is too varied and too dangerous. Like, yeah, I don't know what song LL plays that automatically beats some of Jay Z's top fives. You know what I mean? Top five songs.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it'd be a wash. He probably has a few automatic points that I can't think of off the top of my head, but I do think it would be a wash in favor of Jay Z. So no, I don't think that's a good match.
Yeah, you would need to tell me some songs, Tyson, because I'm trying to think. If you tell me like I Need Love, which is a crazy LL joint, you tell me Mama Said Knock You Out, which is probably one of LL's biggest songs. If he plays Takeover after Mama Said Knock You Out, who you giving the point to?
Nas.
Big old butt. Oh yeah, shout out to Donald Tillman. He did Big old butt is up there though. That one might because Lisa got a big old butt. Like, yo, that might get a point. I ain't gonna front. I ain't gonna front. I mean, Miss Fat Booty
So
by what's the name might beat that out, but it's hard to
most
beat that
deaf.
song. That song is fire, most def. Yeah, yeah. The Roots versus Tribe. Shout out to Tyson Roberts again for another great suggestion. I don't want to do that to the Roots. The Tribe. I'd be nervous if you tell me I gotta put you gotta put a group against Tribe Called Quest. Whew.
So
When Can I Kick It drops, what do you do? It's like
here's
besides clap.
here's what I'd like to say to that. I do think Tribe wins that. However, that could be a one rare exception where a pure MC spitting captivates an audience. But then
Oh
we're talking
yeah.
about performance and not necessarily song for song.
Yeah, I mean, nobody in their right mind is gonna get on stage with Black Thought and be like, "Yeah, let's rap." I'm gonna be like, "Let's just dance. Let's leave the words out of this." Like, I'm not rapping with you, buddy. I'm not. I'm not setting myself up for that. So there were some other ones: Black Thought versus Beanie Siegel. That is an interesting one because it's a style clash. They're very different in the type of lyrics, but they're both heavy spitters. Um, that will be interesting. And then Common versus Kanye. I think Kanye just has too many like huge songs. Common has some huge ones too, but I think when Kanye got the Through the Wire, the Jesus Walks, the like Power, the You Can't Tell Me Nothing. Those type of songs that just were like worldwide anthems. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
they was playing them all over. The people in Paris, that song played what 20 times in a row in Paris. You know what I mean? Songs like that are just they're too big. It's like I don't even know if any song beats that in verses, right? If they play that, if Jay Z comes out and brings out Kanye West and play that song, is there a song that you could play in a versus situation that beats it? I don't know. Yeah, so it's
Good
it's, it's
question.
difficult.
So, what about you? And I appreciate you going to the comments, but since you posed the question, what would you like to see?
If I had to see a dream versus, I probably would go with the Jay Z Nas because I want the conversation to be had. And I want to see how it plays out because we many people have strong feelings on both sides, but
Mm-hmm.
if we had the opportunity to see them go song for song, then you can have a definitive, or not definitive, but you can have an answer based on what was presented.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, because that's the big debate: who's better, Jay Z or Nas? What's this, what's that? Who's a better lyricist, who's a better artist? All those questions are always going to continue. But if they do a verses, you could say, okay, on verses, this is what happened. you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that would be like the one. Yo, Donald, you put shout out to Donald Tillman. He put up the song "The Corner." That song is dope,
Right.
um, super dope. But
I
does
I'd
it
love.
beat
Sorry,
Monster? But
I,
yeah, go
I was
ahead, go
thinking
ahead.
about the beat for the corner, and it made me think about. I'd love to see another producer versus battle. And I can't. And I'm thinking like Alchemist. I can't think who to put him up against. I'm thinking Just Blaze would be somebody that not necessarily those two against each other because Just Blaze I think just has too many like timeless classics. Like Alchemist is like an underground legend. Um, Although he's produced some heavy Mob Deep records, but yeah, I'd love to see both of those two in other verses with better paired against other producers that are a little less of a clash.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'd love to see some producer battles because I've always been a beat junkie in terms of like I'm an MC, but like beat is what always catches my attention when I hear new music before I really start to dissect lyrics. So yeah, we need some more producer battles.
I'm not mad at you for suggesting that. I think that would be dope as well. So that's basically our show. We are over time. I want to say thank you to everybody who showed up. Thank you to everybody who checked in. Final result. It was a great versus between Big Daddy Kane and KRS. I scored at 11-7. So soon you scored at 9-8-1 with a draw. But we felt like this was a close. It was back and forth. It was a celebration. It was great. Any final thoughts? And then you could sign us off.
Yeah, I've already given my final thoughts. This was epic. If you didn't watch it and you are in need of some good entertainment, and a lesson, go on IG Live, go to their verses, go on YouTube, Apple TV, whatever one of these platforms you go to, and just skim through it a little bit, and you will not be disappointed. Make sure you are on the lookout for our short form reaction video tomorrow, which is going to be the framework scorecard. As I said earlier, what you saw tonight for the first time in framework history was us giving our individual takes. So tomorrow we are going to release the video where the framework, not So Soon or Damien, but the framework is giving our final scorecard. And so be on the lookout for that. Thank y'all as always for tuning in. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications for new content. We have a couple of new short form videos coming. And as always, you bring the topic, we bring the framework.
Shout us out if you want to be on the show. Tyson, Donald, hit us up. We'll let you. We'll bring you in on the next live show. Peace.